guys, it's Tessa. So my voice sounds horrendous, but I've been meaning to film this video for a while. But today is going to be the fox beanie tutorial. I use this grid here that I created. It's just a bunch of half double crochets. So if you don't want to watch the whole video, just start on the orange, work your way to the black, follow the grid accordingly. However, if you do want to stick around for the full tutorial and to see how I do a foundation half double crochets, which help with the starting row so that you don't have a million different ends to weave in, or not as many ends to weave in. But this fox beanie has been designed loosely. This pattern has been designed for a while. I've made several of these beanies at this point. Again, forgive my voice. I'm still sick and have been for almost 2 weeks now. Let's hope I have enough of a voice to film this video. Also, new hair, surprise. Again, before I was gonna be sick, I was supposed to film this video and a couple others. And then I got sick and I couldn't, and since I've been sick for so long, I haven't socialized at all, so I dyed my hair green. Let me know your thoughts. But let's get to the beanie. Alright, so for this tutorial, for this beanie, it is done using holding yarn double-stranded, so which means you're holding 2 strands at once, using a 6mm hook. You'll need a pair of scissors, potentially a stitch marker if you feel it's necessary, and then you will also need 1 full skein or 2 partial skeins of orange, 1 full skein or 2 partial skeins of black. I prefer to use partial skeins just because it gives a little bit of better color diversity. To start, we are going to start with our special foundation half double crochets. I purposely start them this way so that it's a little bit easier when it comes to weaving in ends, and you won't feel any knots at the side of the beanie, because we technically start on one side, work our way all the way around to the following side. So you're going to start with your typical slip stitch. For those of you who are maybe new and don't know how to do slip stitches, there's a couple ways you can do it. The way I do it is I take my loop here, my yarn. There we go. So I have my yarn here, I just folded it partially over on my hand. I take my bottom hand to hold the strands in place. I twist once, and then because I have it laying the way I do, I can grab the long one, the long tail. You can't really see. We're here, we twist, we grab the long tail, pull it through, and it should create a slip knot that should allow you to move it around. You can't even see that. It should create a slip knot to where you pull on the long tail. It'll close up the hole. Another way that I personally like to show people, because it shows a better way at doing a magic circle as well. It will build kind of the start of how to do that as well. You take your yarn, you hold it with one hand, you fold it over the top of 2 fingers. Okay, so you move it to the top of your fingers, you wrap around the bottom of your fingers, and you create an X on the back of your hand. And you use an additional finger to hold the X in place. You come here, you go in from the bottom level, you pull here, you pull your hook, oh my gosh. Starting at the bottom or first layer of the X, it's going to be the bottom layer, you'll put your hook underneath just that layer. So essentially my hook is facing the same way directionally as the top strand. You'll turn your hook slightly to pull and hook that top strand through, and then you can just pull your fingers out holding your 2 tails and create a slip knot. Those are the 2 ways to do it. You can also look at better tutorials as well. I'm just going to kind of get into it now because we are basically with this pattern learning half double crochets and foundation half double crochets. I personally choose to do it this way just so there's not extra knots like I mentioned. First start for foundation half double crochet. You are going to chain 2, yarn over like you would normally, and then in the back bump of the first chain, or the farthest one from your hook, you will insert your hook, yarn over, and pull through. You should have 3 loops on your hook at this point. You're going to yarn over, pull through just the first loop, yarn over, pull through any remaining loops on the hook. You should only have 1. To then add to this, you're going to yarn over again. And where we only went through the first time, you'll see this space, this loop space here. You can go in just through that. There's a chance it'll give you a little bit of gapping if you do that. So what I like to do is I like to pick that one up, and then if you turn it, you should see part of an X or part of a figure 8 here. So we have this one, and then we have this one as well. So we have these two spaces. I pick up both because I prefer the look of doing it that way. You're going to yarn over and pull through, just like we did previously. You're going to yarn over, pull through one, and then you're going to yarn over, pull through all three. You should have 2 foundation half double crochets at this point. I'm going to do it one more time and then proceed through. So again, yarn over. This second one is a little bit easier to see that V or that like part of an infinity that I'm talking about. But you're going to do your yarn over. You're going to insert through that full both rows of that. Yarn over, pull through for 3 loops. Yarn over, pull through for 1 loop, and then yarn over, pull through all 3 again. You're going to do this in the orange 14 times, and then on stitch number 15 I'll show you how to do the color switch. So let me get to that point. You're at stitch 14 you've just completed. For stitch 15 you're going to yarn over, insert your hook through the loop like you would normally, yarn over, pull through. Here we have our 3 loops on our hook. You're going to yarn over, pull through the 1. However, now we are going to switch to the black yarn. So instead of using your orange, you're just going to drop that and pick up your black yarn, leave a tail long enough to help you weave in the seam the side at the end. You're going to yarn over on your hook, pull through all 3. You might need to tension this a little bit in the future just to help you. But you're going to do 13 now using your black here. And the way you're going to do that, it's going to be a little bit difficult for my camera to pick up. But just like you've done previously, you're going to yarn over, you're going to find your V here. It might get a little bit absorbed. You might just have to find it. You're going to yarn over and pull through. You're going to make sure your end's pulled tight. You're going to yarn over yarn over and pull through 1, and then yarn over, pull through all 3. And then you're just going to keep doing the same thing we've done previously for all 13 of the black stitches. You're going to repeat that to the end. And once we get there, I will check back in with you. Alrighty, so I did my 15 stitches of the orange and my 13 stitches of the black. You're going to chain 1, and then you're just going to do your normal half double crochets here. You could chain 1 or 2. I prefer to just chain 1 loosely. You're going to do half double crochets along this side. The only thing here that is going to really change when it comes to our stitch pattern is on sides where we start with the black, we're going to decrease by, or we're going to change colors by 2 stitches. And sides that start in orange, we're going to decrease by 1 stitch. Because of the positioning of half double crochets, if you were to just like drop 1 stitch each row, the format and the way it sits is not going to be a smooth transition. So this will hopefully create a smooth transition for us. So I'm going to do a total of 11 half double crochets here in black. It's a little bit messy, so forgive me. And 12 half double crochet here. I've done everything except for the final yarn over. I like to keep all of my ends on one side. So I've already noted to myself, because these 2 ends are on this side, all of my ends will be on sides that start with the black yarn. With that, you're going to pick up the orange yarn. This is going to create, the way that the color switches are going to be angled is they shouldn't be too much of a problem. They're just going to be angled in where the stitches are. So I'm going to take my orange, and not super tightly, like you can tell it's buckling a little bit. I'm going to pull a little bit just so that the stitches lay a little more flat, and we can also adjust this a little bit as we go. So I'm going to do what I've done previously, and we are now going to have a total of 17 orange stitches here. So I'm just going to insert my hook like I have done normally. And again, it looks like it's not pulling too much, so I don't think I need to retension it at all. But if you do your stitch and you notice that it's pulling really hard or it's buckling, you just want to pull on this yarn here. It'll make the stitch itself a little bit smaller, and then you'll just be able to work with it. So I'm going to go all the way across, and we will check in with each other at the start of the next row. General note here, your yarn may curl up like mine is. It's fine, it's gonna curl up. Once we get farther through it and we do the seaming, the curling won't matter at all. But I finished the second row, so I'm gonna chain 1, turn, and then continue doing my half double crochets. And like I mentioned, since this is starting on an orange row, we are only going to switch colors by 1 stitch instead of 2. So this row will have 18 orange half double crochets, and it'll have 10 double crochets in black, sorry, half double crochets in black, sorry. So we'll keep going. And again, for our color changes, we want to make sure all of our ends are on the same side. This is where that grid becomes really handy, because you just have to look at the grid to know what's next. And I'm going to go one past I've done previously on the orange row here. And again, when my color switch occurs, which is now, I will switch back to the black yarn, making sure my orange yarn is in the back with the rest of my ends. I'm going to yarn over and pull through. And I'm going to tension my orange stitch, the last little bit of my orange stitch a little bit, because it gets a little large whenever I do that. And then we're going to carry on and do the black to the end. You can already kind of see it's more of a smooth transition here for where the stitches are switching. No matter what with half double crochets, you'll never get a perfect transition. You just won't because of the way they're positioned. However, this is a pretty smooth transition. Alright, so I finished that row. We are going to do this, we're going to do this decrease angling for a total of 8 rows. So we started with 13 of the black, and we'll be ending with 2 using our same standard pattern. If we're on a black row, if we start on the black yarn, we decrease by 2, or we switch the colors by 2. And if we're starting on an orange row, we switch the colors by 1. I'm going to check in at the end of each row here to give you the color splits. Row 4 ended with 8 black stitches and 20 orange stitches. 5 has 7 stitches in black, while 21 are in orange. Row 6 has 5 black stitches and 23 orange stitches. Row 7 has 4 black stitches, 24 orange stitches. Row 8 ends us with 2 black stitches and 26 orange stitches. From this point on, in order to keep the smooth transition here, we must do an odd number of all orange rows. So the way I tend to do this is 7 rows. If you need to take less width, I would take from those rows and not from our color rows. If you want to make it like shorter and thinner, I would take the equal amount of rows from orange and from black, so you don't have any misshaping. This is meant to fold over, so having a little bit of the extra rows, orange rows, is why we do that. So you're going to do 7 rows of just straight orange. I do recommend cutting your black yarn here so that you have enough yarn, if you didn't leave a long enough tail initially, to seam up the top. So I'm going to leave a tail yay long. I tend to do it extra long just in case. And then I'm going to do 7 rows of orange, and we'll check back in after that. Again, as well, or additionally, we want to make sure we're doing an odd number of rows here of the solid color, because it ensures when we go back and do our color rows again, we're keeping our smooth transition. Alright, so in the last stitch of row 7, you're going to do everything except for that back loop only, or excuse me, except for your 3rd loop. You're going to take your yarn, again, leave a tail that you think is long enough for yourself. And you're just going to wrap around your hook and pull through. So your last stitch will have the start of the black. And then you'll repeat the same pattern we've done previously. So starting on this row, you'll do 2 stitches of black, 26 in orange. And then instead of decreasing, you're going to increase this time. So at the start of that, or at the end of that row, you'll be doing 4 black, 24 of the orange, and so on and so forth, until you're back to the 13 black, 15 orange. From there, we have a slight tweak we need to make to our pattern here so that you can keep the stitch counts in the, again, angle of this perfect. Alright, so I've done the entire first panel. There are 2 methods here on how we can proceed. First one being cut all of your yarn and remake this panel again. You can do that, you're just going to have more ends to weave in at the end, and I don't like doing that way personally. My preferred method is to just continue. In order to keep our proper shaping here for the angle of the ears, we need to add an extra row at the end of this pattern, technically. So there will be 2 rows on one side that are the 13 black, 15 orange, and on this side there will only be 1 row that is 13 black, 15 orange. All this does is, again, keep our shaping. So currently we have a odd number of rows here. That's how we were able to get to this position and have this shaping be how it is. But in order to keep that shaping, we have to essentially start the row or start the repeat at the same spot we started it originally. And so originally we started it with the orange ending with the black. In order to do that, we just have to add an extra row on our working side. So on our working side here, I'm going to do another row. That's just going to be the 13 by 15, and then we'll check in from there on how to finish it up. You can see now we do have an extra row here. I'm on the wrong side currently, but if we flip it over and get back to the right side, I messed up here because this thread needs to be on the other side. I'll fix that. But as you can see, we have an extra row on this side. I'm just going to repeat the pattern. So as you saw on the grid, I'll show it here one more time. There are, and I think it's gonna be on this side. I don't know, one of the sides you'll see an extra row that matches itself, matches the one next to it, and on the other side you'll see only a singular row. So I'm just going to repeat that, and we'll have one long panel, and then we'll talk about something called a true invisible seam. It's my favorite way to connect seams and seam them, or seam up projects. It is 100% invisible. The only caveat to that is it's only able to be used on the working side, and we'll get into why and explain how that works later. The way we seam the top is just simple whip stitching, and again I'll go over how to do that, but firstly we have to finish the beanie, duh. So alright, so if you've done everything correctly up to this point, you'll have 3 rows at the middle of your panel here that are all the same length. They're not going to look the same length because of the slanting of half double crochets. However, if you lay this on top of itself, you should see perfect lineup. Bam. Okay, but to do a true seamless, I want to keep calling it a seamless seam. That's what we're gonna call it. To truly make your work seamless and not have like clear marks of sewing it up, which you could sew it up if you'd like, if that's your preferred method. However, I'm going to show you how to do the true seaming because I do it on literally every single pattern I make, or every single item I make. So you're going to have it. So your wrong sides, that's the sides that have like our lines here for the color changes. It's going to be your wrong side. Your wrong side's on the inside. Okay? I'm going to do this. I'm going to try to show you on the black fabric here to start, but if it doesn't show up very well, I will also show you on the orange to give you a better idea. You're going to do just like you would normally. You're going to chain 1. You're going to pull your loop up a bit. You're going to put your finger in place to hold that loop. And you'll take the, whoops, I say as I drop it immediately. And you'll take the second side. So this was our starting edge here. And I'm going to find the first stitch's V. That little V we previously did at the very beginning. I'm going to put my hook through, and I'm going to pull this loop through the hole. And then I'm going to tighten my yarn so it's about the normal size. And then I'm going to do a yarn over, insert your hook in that first stitch, and do a half double crochet like normal. And then just like we did for that stitch, you're going to make your loop, hold it onto your finger, insert your hook into the second V of the original foundation row. You're going to grab your loop and you're going to pull that through, tighten it a little bit so it's the right size, and then half double crochet like normal in that last row of the previous row, or the second stitch of the previous row. So I'm going to get through all of the black. You literally couldn't see any of that. So I'm going to get through all the black and I'll show you a better image on the orange. I figured I should show you how to do the color change for this seamless seaming. So what you're going to do here is I've already inserted my hook and pulled my loop through the last black stitch of our foundation row. So now all I have to do is my standard yarn over, insert into the last black stitch of the last row we did, pull that through. We should have 3 loops on our hook just like we've done previously. And then for the switching of the color, you're just going to pull through the orange, tighten down with the black, and then I'm going to pull the black to the inside with the rest of the ends. But this is a good spot for us to go over how to do the seaming one more time. So, firstly, pull the giant loop, remove your hook, insert hook into first stitch, pick loop back up, pull it through, tighten it off as needed, and then you're going to do your standard half double crochet in the stitch of the previous row. One more time. Pull your loop up, pull your hook out, put your hook in the second orange stitch of our first foundation row, put your loop back on your hook and pull it through, tighten it up, and then half double crochet normally in the next stitch of the previous row. And again, you will just keep doing this until the very end. I also do this type of seaming with cardigans because it makes that a little bit nicer as well. I'm just going to keep on going to the end. And then from there, we will just be seaming up the top. So I'm going to get through this and then we'll talk about seaming up the top because that's going to, again, just going to be your standard whip stitching, but I'll show you how to do that as well. So I finished seaming up that side and I wanted to show you kind of how invisible it is. So if I line this up incorrectly with the other side, so you'll see here, the seam is like mildly noticeable, but if you flip it, you really can't. You can't really tell whether the seam is really at all. Especially if you're not somebody who crochets or knits, then you really can't see the seam. But for your seaming up here at the top portion, because that's really the only section we have left for seaming. Once again, you have two ways to do this. You can use a tapestry needle and basically weave in and out of each stitch for each color, or the quick way of doing that, which is you take one of your ends here, I will use this one, and I will pull it through, and I will do this all the way across. Essentially, it's the same thing as using your tapestry needle, I just don't have one on me immediately, and so I just pull through to the end, and we'll just pull through again all the way to the end here. This is where you will possibly need a tapestry needle to like actually weave this end in. But for now, I'm just gonna essentially cast it off. And if I flip this right side out, you'll see we got a perfect seam here. No real issues, no real problems. I'm gonna finish seaming this up and then I will meet you guys for the outro. And there you have your completed beanie. So that is going to end this video. Oh, actually, I think I mentioned in my last clip there's a couple ways to seam the top, and I think I only mentioned the whip stitching or what I did. You could also slip stitch across or single crochet across or whatever you want to do. Really, you just want to seam up that edge. But yeah, that is going to end this video. I hope you enjoyed it. You can also add like white here in the middle. I'll note my grid here on screen for the white in the middle on the front panel, on the front side, wherever you decide that to be. And it can look a little bit more like ears as well. But that is going to end this video. If you have any questions on the fox beanie, or you have any feedback on it, or you just want to say it looks really cool, leave a comment below. And if you want to see more from me, subscribe. I'm probably going to redo and repost this video once my voice is better and I can update like basically my voice won't be so grating anymore when it's back to normal. And so I'll probably update that if you guys want. But I will see you guys next time. Bye.